Hello and welcome back to another video. If you follow the channel, you'll know that recently we repaired a number of original Cybiko units. Like these Xtremes, these all had a pretty severe battery damage, and we were able to fix that, and we were also able to upgrade the internal memory. So I'm hoping that as we go through these, we're actually able to repair some of these units. We're going to go through them one by one and quickly just see which ones are still working, what the symptoms are, and then we'll open them up and take a look at the damage and see which ones of them can be repaired. So let's get right to it. So taking a look at the Cybiko Xtremes here, you can see that there are 8 of them total. I believe 6 of these I got many years ago and removed the batteries from them at the time, but didn't clean up any of the damage. And 2 of these units I believe I got recently, and the batteries are still inside, so we'll be able to actually look at what this looks like before you've touched it at all. And some of these I have removed the screws and done some initial investigation. This one says it won't boot. So we'll have to see which ones of these actually adhere to the notes. You may remember that even though I had noted some of the Cybikos in the other repair series, that a lot of them had gotten worse over the years. Not sure how many of these are actually going to work. I'm really only holding out hopes that we'll be able to get half of these units working. But if that's the case, I think that would still be considered a success. We may be able to swap some components between them. But the main problem is that the screen LCD here is soldered directly to the motherboard on the inside, so doing a screen swap may be pretty difficult. We'll see about that when we get there. Obviously, some of these has, just some bad pixels or some blown pixels. I'm not really sure what this condition is called here on the screen. This one actually has some what looks like residue on the inside of the screen, so this one probably has some sort of water damage. So I think the first thing is we'll go ahead and put these units in order. They do all have numbers. This one says corrosion, keyboard issues, no rumble. So we'll go ahead and plug each one of these in, see if we see any signs of life, and we'll go from there. Okay, so let's get these in order. So I have numbers 7 and 8, and these have a slightly different sticker on the back here. So these I just received at a different time. Looks like we have number 6, number 2, 5, 4. This is 3, so 4, 3, and 2. Wait, where did number 1 go? 2, number 1, okay. All right, so we'll start here with this first unit, and we'll get out the original Cybiko Xtreme power cord. Extremely awesome USB cable. I'm just kidding, it's just a regular mini USB cable, but it does still have the install software first little note on here. We won't need any software to plug this into power though, so we'll get also one of our original Cybiko USB bricks, the original kind of USB brick here. This is probably one of the first ones of these that I remember seeing so many years ago, so this is actually kind of interesting is how small these have gotten, especially since by the weight of this you can feel like it still has an actual transformer inside of here. This is not just a simple switch mode power supply. So let's go ahead and plug in our first unit here and see what we see. Okay, this one actually turns on. Loading SciOS, repairing flash. I believe this is something it'll do each time that it starts up once the batteries have run dead. Unlike the original Cybiko, this unit uses part of RAM as an additional bit of file system. So when it first turns on, it probably has to clear out some of that original information. Just reset the RAM and make sure everything is okay. And hopefully we'll get to a desktop here. Fantastic. So this system is definitely working. And hey, look at that. I think it picked up the other Cybiko over here, so we know the radio's working. That's pretty cool. So let's see. I don't think we need to do much more testing than this. I believe this unit may be fully working, besides for the fact that I can feel by the weight that there's no battery inside. So we'll just go ahead and unceremoniously kill the power here. All right, so number 1 seems okay. Well, that note is actually pretty accurate this time. Let's see, number 2, corrosion issues, keyboard issues, no rumble. So let's see, and sometimes you can see the corrosion on the port here, but this one doesn't really appear to have any corrosion. Plug this one in. Okay, so we're getting the red charge light. Oh, it came on. Okay. Oh, the screen flickered a little bit there. I'm not sure if that's just a dodgy connection here on the USB port, but we'll give this just a second and see if this one will start up too. Flash ready. Yep, no rumble. Oh, yeah, okay, so keyboard issues. So likely some of that battery corrosion is gotten to some of the contacts here on the keyboard. So this one may actually be a fairly easy fix once we open it up and we're able to clean it up. So we'll go ahead and unpower this one. So I think this note is actually pretty accurate. Okay, well, this may be a quicker process than I thought. This one says won't boot, no display, and corrosion. And yeah, you can actually on this one start to see some of that green junk on the the mini USB port. Plug this one in. So we get the charge light, no display. Give it just a second here. Yeah, no display. So this one seems pretty accurate. Won't boot, no display, corrosion. So here we have number 4. This one says won't boot, no display, no, and then corrosion. And you can also on this one see the green junk there on the USB port. Other way. Okay, the charge light came on, but yep, no display. Give that just a second. And yeah, it doesn't look like this unit is working either, so that note seems to be accurate. Let's see, number 5, seems okay, no rumble, and corrosion. So this one might be interesting, and yeah, I don't see any of the green junk on the USB port. Okay, this one's turning on. Have the charge light, loading SciOS, repairing flash, flash ready. Okay, no rumble. Oh, okay, so this one's doing the same thing. It's pressing the Z key, so if memory serves, the charge circuit and where the battery connects is right down here inside the case. So that certainly makes sense. So this one is actually powering on, has keyboard issues. Okay. Seems okay. I am going to note on this one the fact that the keyboard is having an issue. Okay. All right, so here we have number 6. This one says seems okay and no rumble. I don't see any corrosion on the port. Okay, this one's turning on. Loading SciOS. Repairing flash. Okay, no rumble. This unit appears to be working just fine, except for the rumble. Awesome. It's online. It sees our other Cybiko. Cool, so we know that the radio is working in here as well. Awesome. Looks like this unit is functional. So that's good news. And power that off, so seems okay, no rumble. Well, that's the first 6, and I have to say our notes are pretty accurate for these 6 units. So let's take a look at these two units, which are very much worse for wear. This one's missing the space key, this one's missing the function key. This one has display pretty badly blown out here, and this one has what looks like water damage on the inside. Both of these have some visible corrosion on the ports, and by the weight, these still have the batteries. So let's go ahead and plug in unit number 7 here. Just see what symptoms we get. So the charge light has come on, but there is no display. So I'll give that just a second. And yeah, it doesn't seem like this one is doing anything. So we'll update our note here. No display. Okay, and we'll try unit number 8 here. This one has that bad pixels here on the screen. So we'll give that a power on. So the charge light did come on, but no, there is no display. So I don't think this unit is in any sort of shape to work either. Just update our note here. No display. Okay, so I think it's time to start opening these units up and taking a look at the damage inside. Okay, so we're going to take a look here at our first unit, this one that seems okay, and it does actually turn on and seem to boot. Looks like I have already removed the screws from the back, so this should come apart pretty easily. Sort of like the original Cybikos, they have some clips along the side, which normally if you just run your fingernail along some of these edges, the clips will pop. We'll try and do this as gently as we can. Get this apart. Okay, there we go. It's starting to come apart. And there we go. So that is the inside, and as you can see, I have already removed the batteries from the inside. We can see some of the corrosion down here where the original battery terminals are, but this one is not so bad. It looks like most of the damage is on the actual terminals themselves and doesn't extend very far into the PCB. So this one's probably a good candidate for getting completely working. Looks like the rumble motor is still turning, so that's fantastic as well. An interesting note here about the Cybiko Xtreme is the radio is completely contained on this secondary board here, and you can actually remove this, and doesn't really seem to affect the operation of the Cybiko in any meaningful way. It does also interface here with the expansion connector. But it is very difficult to find any of those original expansion modules for the Cybiko Xtreme. I believe the MP3 player, it does exist, I've seen it, but I have not seen a memory card expansion for the Cybiko Xtreme. So the other interesting thing is that the antenna is actually here on the front body, and there is a small spring contact here on the radio board that makes contact with the antenna when the case is put back together. So it is kind of unfortunate because there is a connector here, but the rumble motor is still soldered directly to the logic board. So to really get this apart, we'll probably desolder these as we go. But I believe the next thing to do is to go ahead and get the motherboard out of the case. So there's just a number of screws that hold it to the front. And let's go ahead and get those out. Okay, so one thing I am going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and number these on the inside. So this one's number 1, just in case we go about swapping the logic boards around these units. At least we'll be able to keep track of which one they originally came from. So I guess I'll put it here. So number 1, and we'll do the same thing on this secondary board just so we can keep track of those components. Next, we'll go ahead and remove this logic board from the front. So we'll go ahead and remove these 4 screws. I believe there's 4. And what we're looking for is just any sign of corrosion on the other side that we might want to clean up at the same time. Okay, that's our 4 screws removed. And we'll go ahead and disconnect the secondary board connector here. Go ahead and free that. And now our logic board should just come right out of this case. Unless, okay, there we go. Yeah, thought there might be another screw. So, all right. So that is our Cybiko Xtreme removed. And yeah, there is a little bit of corrosion here, but it doesn't look too serious, and we should be able to stop any of this additional corrosion with a little bit of vinegar. Interestingly, there is a microphone here on the front, and here we have the speaker and the screen. The screen is held on by some clips, I believe. Yeah, some clips on the side. And that can be freed, but it is still glued down to, or is still soldered directly to the logic board. So let's see if we can go ahead and, I think I'll go ahead and disconnect this rumble motor. So let me heat up the soldering iron, and then we'll get the vinegar out and do some cleanup. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll desolder the 2 connections here for the rumble motor. Okay, and this time they are actually labeled, so this one was labeled positive and this one doesn't have a label. But that completely frees our logic board from the case. So we'll set the back and the front of this case off to the side, and we'll take a better look at our Cybiko logic board. Okay, so we'll take some vinegar and our brush, and I'm just going to put this down on a towel, like so. And let's get some of this vinegar on there, and I expect quite the reaction because there is a good amount of corrosion here. Get a little on our brush, get that on, and yeah, it's bubbling up right away. You can see it's going to work instantly. Just get a little bit of extra in the surrounding area. Agitate it a little bit. And we'll go ahead and get some on this other side here just to start working its way in. I don't think I need to clean the entire board here. The rest of this looks pretty clean. But even if there is still a little bit of green, I just want to make sure that we stop any additional corrosion that may occur on this unit. Just make sure that we get some of that vinegar on there to start working. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I am going to go through the rest of these units and get them open, make any notes as I go along the way, and allow the vinegar to sit on here a little bit and really soak into the board here and do the best job possible at cleaning up some of this corrosion and breaking that up. Make our lives a little bit easier as we go along. So, let's get to it. Okay, well, disassembly complete. Some basic prep work here, just getting vinegar on the spots with all of the battery junk. It's actually, for some of these, not as bad as I thought it would be. Unit number 1 seems relatively okay over here. This seems like that's going to clean up. Unit number 2 and 3 both have somewhat severe corrosion in the battery charge circuit area. Number 4 also has some pretty severe corrosion that has also gotten up towards the top of the board. And then number 5 also has a good bit of corrosion down here. But the rest of these, seems like there may actually be some hope in reviving these. One hope is that may be able to swap some of these components, which may be hard to find or identify. There's not quite the same level of schematics available for the Cybiko Xtreme as there are for the original Cybiko. So we may just be able to swap some of these components from the other damaged units onto one of the less damaged units and get all of these, well, not all of these, but at least some of these up and running again. So stay tuned. I'm going to let this vinegar set in a little while longer, and then we'll start to see if things have improved for any of these units after cleaning up that corrosion. So stay tuned. Okay, so the vinegar has been on here a while, perhaps maybe too long, because it has left this white residue behind on all of the boards. So I'm just going to take a little bit of 99% IPA and see if that can clean this up a little bit. So we'll go ahead and get some of these out of the way. Just carefully place them. Looks like there's some rust coming off of the speaker there. I hope that's not because of the vinegar. Okay, all of these out of the way. Okay, so this one is cleaned up pretty good, but hoping to get some of this residue off. So I'll get a fresh towel and start scrubbing away with some IPA. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing for the rest of them. Okay, vinegar residue cleaned up, so I think it's time to go ahead and retest the units and see if anything's changed, see if we've made things better, maybe we've made things worse. I guess it's time to find out. So we'll go ahead and grab our USB cord, wrangle that, and we'll go ahead and take the first unit. And the nice thing is we can just power it up directly with the USB and at least see if the unit is still booting. Okay, so this is the unit that was able to boot up completely without any issues. Okay, speaker still works. Of course, no rumble motors connected. Let's see if we can press these buttons. This is probably not the best way to do this. It's a lot of prompts just to get it started. Okay, looks like it is working. So we were able to get to the desktop, so our unit number 1 is still functioning. And if we go on to unit number 2, which I had labeled as corrosion, keyboard issue, and no rumble. So this one's battery damage was quite severe in this area. And what's nice though is that it doesn't seem to have affected the keyboard too much. I think some of this damage here we can fix with bodge wires, potentially bodging in components or replacing them, but on some of these, as the corrosion has gotten to the keyboard contacts, that is going to be a lot more difficult to fix, especially where it has actually eaten these gold contacts here. So let's power this one up. I believe this one was working. It just was randomly pressing keys on the keyboard. Okay. It does not appear to be working. Give this another test. Okay, so this one is not starting up. I believe it was starting up. So potentially some of this that we've cleaned up here, we've actually removed some traces that may have still been a little bit present on the board just with the scrubbing. So we'll want to go through and examine some of the units where the damage is not as severe here and compare and see if we need to run any additional traces to bodge that out. But this one is not starting. Okay, number 3. Let me find the note for that one. Number 3, wooden boot, no display, and corrosion. So this one does have pretty severe corrosion on the keyboard traces. I'm not sure that this one will ever fully work in this area again. This is going to be near impossible to repair this kind of damage. And the corrosion here is also pretty severe. There's some large chunks missing. So this one wasn't turning on either, but let's see if anything has changed. No, still looks like we have no display. So we just get the red charging light and it is not starting up. Okay, we'll go on to number 4. Let me find the note for number 4. So number 4, also wooden boot, no display, and severe corrosion. And so yeah, this one perhaps has the most severe corrosion on the keyboard. Some of the contacts are completely gone after using the vinegar and some IPA to clean that up. And there's still some areas where you can see it's gotten under the solder mask. And yeah, so this one is very, very damaged. There's not quite as bad damage in here, although I can tell that there are a few actual missing components now, so those probably came off during scrubbing. So let's see if this one's doing anything, although I highly doubt it. It was not before. So yeah, number 4, it is also just a blank screen. Charging light is on, so something's getting power. All right, so let's move on to number 5. And our note for number 5 was that it seems okay. There was no rumble and there was some corrosion. So yeah, we can see that corrosion here. It largely seems to be contained to this lower corner. And also the keyboard, although it does have some pretty severe corrosion here, it actually seems to have spared all of the actual contacts for the buttons, and I don't really see any particular issues with the traces that lead up to those either. So this might just be a grounding plane here that the corrosion has gotten to, but otherwise the keyboard may still be functional on this unit. So if this one does still boot up, this one may yet turn out to be a functional unit. And kind of the same thing down here is that most of the corrosion is limited to this large plane, which is probably a ground plane. And then a little bit around this trace here, but it's pretty visible, and I think we should be able to bodge that in. So let's see if this one is still starting up. Okay, that's good news. And let me just double check the notes for this one, number 5. So number 5 was having an issue with the keyboard doing multiple presses on the keyboard, so the Z key was always being pressed. So let's see how it's behaving now. So we'll just simulate some button presses. Oh, well, it doesn't, nothing is being entered into the keyboard right now. Okay, looks like we're picking up key presses. Awesome. Looks like this unit is now functioning better than it was before. So we'll definitely need to repair some of this damage down here, but it booted up to the desktop without issues, so it is no longer having issues with the keyboard. So that's good news. So I'm going to go ahead and start a pile of the ones that are exhibiting any signs of life. So far that is units number 1 and 5. So I'm going to place these up here. So we'll move on to number 6. And number 6 actually looks like in really good shape. There is very, very minor corrosion. But really, once we resolder the battery on here, I don't know that it will really be obvious that this one ever had corrosion. So this one cleaned up quite nicely. And the note for number 6 is that it seems okay and that it was not rumbling. So let's boot this one up and verify that. Okay, looks like it's turning on. That's good news. And yeah, it doesn't look like there's really any corrosion here on the keyboard at all. Everything cleaned up really nicely here on the front as well. So that's some good news. Yeah. All right, let's see if we can get through this initial setup. Okay, press some keys. Okay. So this one seems like it is working just fine. Okay, let's see if we get to the desktop, and awesome. So it looks like number 6 is a good candidate for a fully working Xtreme. So we'll set that one up here as well. And now let's take a look at number 7. So this one actually had some, I think this is the one that had weird water damage on the inside of the screen. So I didn't really see any other evidence of that, and it also did clean up pretty nicely. There's still some residual corrosion down here in this section, but I'm interested to see if this one is going to start to work any better, because both numbers 7 and 8 showed no signs of life previously. So let's give this one a test. Oh, hey, look at that. Okay. I think it's working. Look at that. And there's not a lot of corrosion here on the front. So this one also should have a working keyboard. So I guess we'll find out here in just a second. Let's see if we can get through the setup. Looks like it started up. Well, that's good news. Okay, we'll give our buttons a press here. Okay, press some keys. Okay, it's not getting any input here. I'm going to try and press enter. Okay, so this one's still having some issues. It's definitely hearing something, but it certainly sounds like another key may be held down, maybe the backspace key. And that's why it's not taking any input. So I might run this with a little bit more IPA and see if that clears that up at all. But this one's definitely showing some signs of life. So this is a good candidate for repair. And let's check out number 8. And even though there's this issue with the screen here, the corrosion really was not bad on this one at all. Which is interesting because these are the two that still had their batteries installed, so that's a little strange. So I think this one too just has a little bit of corrosion down in this area, but overall it cleaned up really nicely. And again, once we put a new battery in it, I don't know if you'll be able to tell that it ever really had an issue. So this one also was showing no signs of life, so let's give this one a test. Hey, look at that. This one's also starting up. That's awesome. So it looks like the corrosion was just severe enough that it was probably, you know, bridging some sort of a startup circuit or preventing it from getting the right voltage in the right place, but that's really cool. And it's interesting to see how these pixels are blue while the screen is actually black. Let's see if we can get through the setup. Okay. Okay, yeah, we're able to type on the keyboard. Hey, it looks like this one's fully working. That kind of is unfortunate about the screen, but I guess we'll try and find out if we can do a screen swap from one of these other ones. I mean, it is nice that this screen is working, but I think it's worth it to try and swap the screen from another unit. But yeah, this is also going to be another good candidate for repair. So look at that, fully into the desktop. Well, that's better than I expected so far, for sure. That's 5 of the 3 that are actually showing life. I think we only had 3 that were actually showing signs of life before. Unfortunately, it seems like unit number 2 has developed an additional fault that it is no longer starting up. But again, there is pretty severe traces that are damaged down here, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe just a bodge wire in that area would help this. Oh, okay, now it's starting up. So maybe that's just a dodgy USB port. But yeah, let's see if unit number 2 is also going to start to work. That would be fantastic. It's a good thing we checked. I think unit 3 here with this corrosion on the keyboard, that is unlikely to ever be useful again, and certainly this unit here, number 4, this one is just never going to be a working handheld computer again with that much corrosion on the keyboard area. Well, let's see if we can get through the menus here. Okay. Alright, so we're able to type on the keyboard. Z, yep, all the keys seem to be working, or at least the ones we tested there. Get through the rest of these prompts. Well, that's excellent. So it looks like unit number 2 is also functioning correctly. So that is some really good news. That is certainly more than I expected. So I'm going to take another quick look at number 3 here. Let's just power this one up one more time. And yeah, nothing out of the screen here, but that's really not surprising. It's pretty bad on the other side. And then number 4 here, probably easily the worst of all of these. This one just has no chance of working properly again. But that might be a good opportunity for us to steal this screen and put it on the other unit. And see if there's any of these, because there is a good amount of the components left in this area. So if we need to take something and put it on one of the other ones, well, I think we can probably do that. So I think that will end it for this part, and I'll be back with some more investigation. Okay, so before we move on, I thought we should go ahead and try to do this screen swap. There's really no avoiding it. So this is unit number 8 that is powering on and working just fine, but it has this artifact on the screen. This is unit number 4. And it's just, I'm going to go ahead and deem this a total lost cause, because there's just no way that this keyboard is ever going to work again. At best, this could be used for something like a Cywig internet gateway, but I think even then it is just not going to be worth it to keep this unit with a working screen. So we're going to start with the heat gun and see if we can get this screen successfully removed. What I'm interested to see is how that starts to affect the components on the other side. If things start falling off, then we're going to have a problem there. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get the screen off of this unit first and see how that goes, and hopefully apply that experience to getting it back onto this one. So let's go ahead and get the heat gun out and try and make that happen. Okay, I have the heat gun all ready to go. So first thing is, on the back side here, we're just going to pop these 2 clips. I'm going to press this one in, and then this one over here, and that should free the screen. I want to be gentle with it. I don't want to break it. Okay, so let's get this clip. There we go. All right, so the screen is free. I think I might go ahead and just clip out this speaker. solder that inside of another one if we need it. Okay, so it seems like that we just need to apply a little bit of heat in this area, and that should go ahead and help us lift that. So I think I'll go ahead and break out a little bit of flux just to help with the soldering there. Okay, so I have the flux, and let's just get a little bit of that in this area. Doesn't have to be perfect. This will spread all over the place once heat hits it. So let's give this a shot. Okay, that feels like too much heat. What's happening on this side? Nothing so far. Okay. Don't know if there's like an additional adhesive going on here. So let's try this again. Okay. Okay. It's free. Doesn't look like any of the pins are bridged, but that is quite scary to solder on there. So, oh no. Yeah, it looks like I really hope. Yeah, looks like that heat burned the bottom of this screen. I wonder if that's going to go away or if that's permanent. Looks like it's starting to go away. So maybe we didn't cause any permanent damage. Okay, it looks like it's going back to normal. So, okay, we may have successfully removed this screen. Let's take a look here. I don't see anything that looks like it moved or got warm enough to start reflowing. So it does look like we were able to contain our work to this area, so that is good news. All right. So, all right, number 4, you're out of here. Just taking a better look at this screen here. Try and get that in focus. So there are little contacts that fan out. I think the difficult part will be getting this to align straight back down and back onto those contacts on the other Cybiko. Okay, so before we remove the screen from this unit here, I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect the speaker. So that should make it a little bit easier to work with. Okay, speaker is free. So we'll go ahead and pop those clips on the back, and that should go ahead and free our screen. Okay, so this is the one with the damage. And we'll repeat our process, a little bit of flux, and hoping that this goes well. So get a little bit of flux on here. And time for the heat. Okay, screen is successfully removed from the Cybiko. So here's our screen with the damage. And yeah, it looks like it's just a lot of heat. So I'm hoping that, and this screen did seem to recover. So I'm hoping that this process of putting it back on doesn't actually damage this screen. So if we take a look at the board, looks like there's not a lot of solder left over. So I wonder if this is actually a job for some manual soldering and just lots of flux. So I think I'm going to take a stab at that first before trying to use the heat gun. As I'm just worried that the fact that this flex ribbon here is now a little bit not straight, and there's just no way that using the heat gun is going to make this stick properly again. So I think we'll try just a little bit of manual soldering to get this reattached. Okay, so I think I'm going to use a little bit of solder and try and just add just a tiny bit of solder to these pins here. So I'll get the soldering iron and some solder. And hopefully we're able to wipe a little bit of new solder onto these pins. Okay. So far, so good. Let's keep going. Okay. Touch this a little bit. All right. So let's take a quick look and see if we see any bridging, and we don't. So I think now's time for a little more flux. I don't see how this can be a harm at this point. It'll just help us prevent any additional bridging. So I'm not going to use a lot. There's already a good amount here, but just a little bit. And we will take our screen, try and get a good alignment, and see if we can go ahead and tack this down and start getting this reattached. So it's going to be difficult to do the camera way, but we'll see how close we can get. It's rather goopy and messy at the moment, that is for sure. I'll get this as close as possible to where it would have been originally. I think that is it. So let's try and tack down some of these. Oh, is that bridge? Yes, it's very hot. So is this holding down? No, but I'll keep going. Seems like it is. Okay, definitely seems like we're making progress. I'm sure all these are actually tacking down. Just a tiny bit of fresh solder here, see if we can run across all these pins a few times. And just hope that this is soldering down and making a good connection. Not sure if every one of these pins is actually necessary, but I imagine there must be. Okay, it looks pretty good to me. So I'm not sure what else to do, but give this a test. See if this is actually going to work. If you have any predictions, shout it out in the comments below. But I'm giving this a pretty low chance of actually having worked. Oh my god. Wait, it worked for a second. There it goes. We did it. We replaced the screen. It looks fine. It looks perfect. What? I can't believe it. Look at that. Okay, so not sure how many times that's been done, but I've never seen a successful screen swap on a Cybiko before. So, wow, that absolutely worked. I can't believe it. Okay, cool. Well, let's clean up our work a little bit here, get the screen reattached, but I think that gives us 6 units that are almost fully functional to start reassembling these. So that's great. Okay, well, that went better for a part one than I was expecting, especially after having seen some of these and how severe the corrosion was on the inside. These two units are kind of our write-off units. This is the one where we stole the screen to repair our other unit over here. And this one also has pretty severe corrosion, so likely will just be used as parts to repair some of these other units. But I think we went from having 4 semi-functional units to having 6 currently completely functional units. That is at least on the DC input here in the bottom. I think in part 2 we'll rebuild some battery packs and repair any of the damage down here in this area as necessary, connect new batteries, see if it can charge it, see if they can run off of them. But I think an outcome of 6 potentially working logic boards with keyboards and LCDs, I think, is a fantastic start. So yeah, here is that screen that we took off of the number 8 unit here. So that's the new screen installed. Just needs to be cleaned up a little bit. Still need to reattach the speaker. But yeah, that's pretty fantastic. And if you enjoy this kind of thing, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. Definitely have some more videos in the works, and see you then.